I'm Brenda Earl-Stokes. I'm the owner and creator of Piano and Voice with Brenda, creative and practical resources for singers, pianists, and music teachers. Well, it's Motivation Monday time again, and I've been really enjoying having a chance every week just to talk a little bit about music and life and ideas and productivity, and I appreciate, I've had a lot of really nice comments from people about how they're enjoying this, so I will continue doing it. It is an absolutely beautiful spring day in New York City. And I want to talk about a topic that is a little bit difficult. It's a tricky one. And I'm calling today's video, There is More Than One Way to Be an Artist. Okay? Now, I had an interesting encounter with someone not too long ago who is, a fellow jazz musician, and the conversation of practicing and all of that kind of stuff came up. And I was sort of hearkened back to my early days as a jazz pianist, first in Toronto and then in New York. And my day consisted of, 4 to 6 hours of practicing, transcribing solos, learning tunes, listening to recordings, like going to jam sessions, thinking and eating and breathing the music all the time, sort of living and dying for it. And, at that time, it was very clear to me that I was a jazz pianist because that was my life. I really didn't have other things going on. I worked a bit, and then the rest of my life was eating and sleeping and breathing jazz. Well, fast forward to now, and, how much did I practice yesterday, you ask? 0. What about the day before? Also 0. This whole week I've practiced 0, okay? And it sort of poses the question to my former self, well, if I'm not eating and sleeping and breathing this music of jazz that I love so much, does this mean that I'm not a jazz musician anymore? Does this mean I'm not an artist anymore? And it's something, honestly, that I struggle with a lot. And I know that that's part of the culture of, of other artists and the competitiveness of musicians and stuff. But some of it is also kind of my inner dialogue. And as I was sitting and moving through these feelings a little bit, I had to actually really stop and think well, wait a minute, I haven't practiced very much this year. This year I haven't practiced very much, and, I certainly haven't done any gigs, pandemic and all, and I haven't done a lot of live streams or anything like that. I've really not been in that world. And so I've sort of been asking myself the question, am I even a jazz musician anymore? Can I call myself that? Can I even be an artist? Can I even say that that's what I am anymore? And, the identity of that is such a part of who I am. And it's been a really sort of painful experience, especially this year in the midst of everything, to have to be feeling almost like there's a piece of my identity that's being ripped off. And the more that I've been thinking about this and writing about it, the more I kind of stopped and thought well, wait a minute, am I a jazz musician? You damn well better believe I'm a jazz musician. Just because I'm not practicing every day or any day, just because I'm not doing any gigs or I'm not deeply steeped in it, it doesn't mean that part of me is gone. I'm still very much a jazz musician. I'm still very much an artist. I'm still very much a songwriter. I'm just not doing it right now. But that part of my identity still lives on. And here's what I'll say about the problems, I think, with these definitions that we have, externally and internally about what an artist is. I think a lot of people feel discouraged because maybe they don't have the time to do it, or maybe they go through a period in their life where they don't have the time to be able to devote to it, and they maybe feel like a piece of that identity is gone, or maybe they can't say they're that anymore. Can you be an artist if you're not making art? And what I would say is I think that definition is really, really problematic. So from my own experience, and if you've been watching any of these videos or sort of reading anything I've been writing lately, I'm homeschooling my son this year. I'm teaching great many hours a week, and I'm running my business, my online course business. And so I don't have a lot of time. It's not really a priority for me to be transcribing Herbie Hancock solos. I just have other things that I need to be doing. And for me, I really wanted to focus on my parenting and my mothering and my family life this year, just in the midst of everything else that's going on. And I think what can be really dangerous about being, especially in a field where there isn't a lot of representation. So, the jazz industry up until more recently has been male dominated. And it's really honestly still very male dominated. So within that culture, there aren't a lot of role models from history of people who were mothering or homeschooling their children or running their business, or there just isn't that wide of a scope of people that I can kind of have as sort of a mentor, as somebody I hold up to high regard. Luckily, there's more women doing this and a lot more moms in jazz, but certainly there hasn't been a lot of representation. It's not like I can say, like, I transcribed all these Bud Powell solos and like, wow, he homeschooled his daughter, something like that. The industry was never particularly, I don't think, supportive of parenting or those kinds of roles. And so it can really cause an identity issue for people. And so what I would say is, and what I'm hoping will start to happen within the culture of different genres of music and in different aspects of the arts, is that we'll be able to define ourselves as artists and live as artists even when we go through periods in our life where we're unable to really make the music or the art that we want to be doing. And something that's been very grateful, like I've been very grateful for through this time, is through the dormant periods, when my son was first born, for the first year and a half that he was alive, I just allowed myself to just fall into that world of mothering him and not be distracted by the music stuff that I wanted to be doing. I just kind of let myself let that go so that I could focus on it. And when it came time for me to record another album, the magical thing was that my artist life still was there. My skills were still there. I was a little rusty, but I just needed to kind of reboot the system. And I recorded, that was the Right About Now album that I did in 2014. It was released, and it was still there, and then through different periods of my life where I've powered down and then had to power up again, I've always been very happy to know, and I kind of trust the process now, that when I have to take a break from it, it's still there. And so if you're somebody who's going through a different period in your life, like maybe you're a student and you're very, very busy with your schoolwork, and so you haven't been able to write songs the way that you do in the summers or the way that you did in high school, then I would say, like, please don't say that you're not an artist anymore. You're just in a different phase of life. Or if you're like me and your kid's been home for a year without a break from school, that's another thing. It's like, it's okay that we can take a break and step away, and it doesn't take away the fact that we really are still artists and that we're still a worthy, we're somebody worthy to be looked at as that, or for us to look at ourselves that way. I know a lot of people have gone through a lot of stress this year as far as joblessness or family illness, or if you're going through a loss in your family. And, you feel that pang towards your music or your painting or your writing, but you can't get there because of the season of life that you're in. And I would just say, I think it's time for us to change the conversation around, what it means to be an artist. So I hope this makes sense. I hope it resonates for you. I know it's taken me quite a lot of time to kind of get right-sized about this, but it was so funny to have this weird conversation with someone and to feel so like upset and kind of triggered by it. But what it really helped me to do was kind of center myself around, what my identity is. And I'm just saying, I am still very much a jazz musician. I'm still a jazz pianist. I'm still a jazz singer. And just because I haven't practiced very much, or I'm not really active in the scene at this time, doesn't mean that I'm not still a worthy member of that community. So anyways, if this resonated with you, feel free to write a comment below if you've ever had this feeling at different points in your like seasons of life. And I would love to know how you kind of work your way through that. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I'd love to hear from you. Take care. Have a great day.